Good evening, everyone. I'm calling the City Council meeting for December 18th to order. And before we take the Pledge of Allegiance, I would like to let you know that tonight we will have a moment of silence following the Pledge of Allegiance to express our deepest sympathies to all the families and the families impacted by the unthinkable tragedy that unfolded at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut last Friday. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. City Clerk, will you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Irwin.
Present.
Councilmember Price.
Here.
Councilmember Adam.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fox.
Here.
Mayor Bill De La Pena.
Present. And now we're going to item number 4 on our agenda, which is a request for continuance of any public hearing or agenda item at this time. We do have an item number 9A, the Miller Ranch project. We continued the item from November 13th on a closed hearing basis. And if there's no objection from the City Council, I would like to have a motion at this time that when the agenda comes up later this evening, that we will reopen the public hearing so that we can have any additional information on the record for this particular case.
I'd move that.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
And that motion passes. We now have special presentations and announcements, and it is my pleasure for our special presentation tonight, to introduce to you Jay Spurgeon, the Public Works Director, and he will provide us, you, our residents, with an updated status on the 101 Wendy Drive Bridge Improvement Project. And Mr. Spurgeon is the narrator. And for TOTV, if you could please start the video.
Hi, I'm Jay Spurgeon. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Thousand Oaks. I am standing in the middle of the northbound 101 freeway. It's about 1:30 in the morning. Obviously, the freeway is closed. Both sides of the freeway are shut down tonight for the construction of our Wendy 101 Bridge Widening Project. The purpose of this project is to widen the bridge. An additional travel lane for vehicles and for bicycles will be provided on both sides of the bridge. So we're widening each side of the bridge to alleviate the congestion that's occurred at this interchange over the years because of the growth in the Newbury Park area of Thousand Oaks. The duration of this project is about 18 months, and we're almost halfway through. We expect to be completed by summer of 2013 with the bridge fully open and operational. There are 4 bridge girders being placed tonight. One you see is already being put into place. That's a 80-foot long, 10-ton girder. The second girder, that's a 96-foot long girder, and it weighs 17 tons. These girders were manufactured in Salt Lake City, Utah by Mountain State Steel, American-made. Prime contractor on this project is C.A. Rasmussen from Valencia, California. The steel workers that are putting the girders together work for Bragg Crane and outfitting out of Long Beach, California. This is the city's largest project currently under construction. Total cost is $14.3 million. Funding is primarily from federal highway funds of $11 million. The balance is from the local city gas tax funds as well as developer fees. This is a very important project for the community as it does provide significant improvement in the interchange operations, alleviates a lot of the congestion that commuters see here every morning and every afternoon.
Thank you very much, Public Works Director Jay Spurgeon. Now we know what's going on with the 101 Wendy Drive Interchange project and what the status is. Thank you. Well, that's true. If there are any complaints, Jay will handle them. Now we are at the moment where we call for public comments. And before I call any other members of the public, I would like to call to the speaker, to the microphone, our police chief, Randy Pentis. And the chief is here to give us an update on school safety and school security in the wake of what happened in Newtown, Connecticut. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This is not only a council goal. In your profession, I know each and every one of you, and I know it's a personal goal. More than this goal, it's a commitment, and it's a commitment by your police department. It's a professional commitment, and it's also a personal commitment. No matter what our positions are in life, whatever title we hold, there's nothing more important than being a parent. And that's how we have approached this problem. This can happen, sadly, any place, anytime, anywhere. And that's how we approach it, and that's what I want to talk to you about, what we've done. Oftentimes in law enforcement, as Councilmember Price knows, being in law enforcement, we're reactive. This is something that's a culture of this city, it's a culture of the police department, and that's ongoing training for our schools. Myself and your Assistant Chief, Jim Fryhoff, this year so far we have spoken to in excess of 12,000 children. Our commitment is to speak to every kid who goes to Canadian Valley Unified School District. And we're able to do this because of our partnership with the district itself, every single principal, at all of the schools. Specifically, when it comes to elementary schools, we have several programs that we're doing. We have a Stand Proud program where all of our fifth graders are going through leadership and team building training. So we're on campus a lot. We have another training program for K through 3, and that is safety in traffic. And we talk to them. We're on the campus. Our motor officers are there on campus. As all of you know, we have our city divided into patrol beats. Well, with that, we also have our motor officers assigned to schools and school beats. Yes, we do traffic enforcement there in the morning and in the afternoon because we want our children to go to and from school safely. But we're also close to the school. We are there a lot. We continually and have trained every aspect of the school. We do active shooter trainings. We've had them scheduled before this horrendous homicide occurred. We train not only the administration, we train the teachers, we train the bus drivers, we train the maintenance staff, we train the volunteer parents, we train everybody that has any connection to the school in not only what to look for, having your eyes up, being aware of your surroundings. We also, and this is critical, we do it age appropriate, but we train the children of what to do in an emergency. We don't want to scare our youth. We don't want to scare our parents. We want people to use education as their response, and we continue to do it. It's not something that's a one-time event. I mentioned earlier the culture of this agency, the culture of our council, the culture of the community. This is something that we've done. I did it as your assistant chief for several years. I'm doing it as your chief the 9 months I've been here, and we will continue to do it. It's not reactive to what just happened, but will there be lessons learned? Absolutely. And we'll build on those lessons learned. I mentioned it could happen anywhere. We're going to reduce the percentage of it occurring in our city because it can happen here, and we have to be mindful of that. Again, not using fear, but using our education. But we are doing everything possible as a police department, working with community, working with the PTAs, the DAC, the district as a whole, to make us as safe as possible.
Chief, thank you very much. It does give us parents peace of mind, regardless of the age of our children, to hear that you are so very dedicated, along with all of the police officers that are working for the City of Thousand Oaks. If I may ask you a question regarding, you mentioned the public schools. Is your assistance and expertise also available to private schools?
Very good question, Madam Mayor. Yes, we go to the private schools. There's many of them. There's some small church-based schools. There's other larger Catholic schools. We don't discriminate. We go to every place there's children. We're going to make sure the best we can that they have a safe environment to learn.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure whether there are any questions from the council regarding this. No, thank you. Thank you so very much, Chief. And Madam Clerk, if you could please announce the remainder of public comments.
This is the time and place for public comments. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council regarding items on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction. Speakers for public hearing items shall be called and heard during the public hearing. All remarks should be addressed to the council as a whole, and all documents for City Council and the official city records should be presented to the city clerk prior to speaking. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under state law, public comment matters may not be considered by the council unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to the city manager for administrative follow-up. 3 people have presented cards, and pursuant to council standards, speakers are allowed 3 minutes. The yellow light displays when you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. And to those in the audience, regarding the other item we're hearing tonight, the Miller Ranch project, you will have an opportunity to speak when that item is called. I see that we do have a speaker under public comments. Your comments will not be part of the official record if you speak under public comments. And that would be Mr. Frank Koshari or Kosher. Do you prefer to wait until the item is called? Okay, then I will wait to call you. Next speaker is Jeff Francis, followed by Mr. Samuel Rosen.
My name is Jeff Francis. I'm the president of Thousand Oaks High School baseball, and I'd just like to thank the council for giving us a grant of $15,000, which is matching funds to help us with our baseball field. And I'd like to sincerely thank all of you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Mr. Rosen.
Honorable Mayor Claudia De La Pena, honorable members of Thousand Oaks City Council. Let me take a moment to remember the name of the children and the teachers who lost their lives. Emily Parker, age 6. Noah Posner, age 6. Charles Bacon, age 6. Olivia Engel, age 6. Dylan Hockley, age 6. Madeline Sue, age 6. Catherine Hubbard, age 6. Jesse Lewis, age 6. Anne Margaret Green, age 6. James Mattock, age 6. Jack Pinto, age 6. Carolyn Previti, age 6. Jessica Rickens, age 6. Abil Richmond, age 6. Benjamin Wheeler, age 6. Eileen Wyatt, age 6. Daniel Barden, age 7. Joseph Gay, age 7. Chase Kowalski, no age. Grace McDonald, age 7. Rachel Davino, age 29. Dwayne Hotspring, age 47, Dawn Hot Spring. Nancy Lanza, age 52. Anna Marie Murphy, age 32. Lauren Rousseau, age 30. Mary Sherlock, age 56. And Victoria Salt, age 27. I have a granddaughter, 6 years old, and she's in the first grade. Thank you for the moment of silence that you've observed in memory of these fine children and these wonderful teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosen. Next up, we have, this concludes public comments. We do have consent calendar item, which is item number 7. Do we have any requests to pull any items? Councilmember Irwin?
7G, please.
Any other items? None? Then I'm looking for a motion to approve the remainder of the calendar. Mr. Price?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would move the balance of the consent calendar with the exception of G, 7G.
Please vote.
Excuse me, Mayor, we do have a speaker card, I believe, for 7C.
Yes, we do, and it is not Mr. Kidwai this time. It's Stephanie Wilson. Sorry about that.
I will be brief. Mayor Bill De La Pena, members of the City Council, welcome, and hardworking staff. I'm Stephanie Wilson. I live in Westlake Village. I'm only here to say that I've been honored to serve on the Cultural Affairs Commission for the last 2 years, its first 2 years. I think we've done an amazing job in starting this new commission. We've given out $200,000 in performance grants here at the Civic Arts Plaza, $170,000 in grants to local community groups. We've created policies for resident companies. We've created policies for cultural events that will be official city events. We've created a new murals in the parking structure. And we've completely redone a lot of the things that used to be spaghetti and had too many people doing too many, remember the spaghetti chart? Too many people doing too many things at once, and helped out staff to streamline the process. So I'm very proud of our work so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing in our work. And I just want to thank you for your support and your ears when we needed you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Okay. Councilmember Irwin.
Do you want to vote on the rest?
Yes, we do need to vote on that. Mr. Price had a motion to approve the remainder of the calendar with the exception of 7G. Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Irwin.
Hi, Mr. Rogers. I just wanted to know if you could explain a little bit about, you were talking about the subpar performance of MES and MFC. What did that entail? And was the company that's taking over the contract, were they original bidders?
As to the first part of the question, the 3 technical issues that we had to do with gas conditioning and heating with the units, problems that they had handling the heat of the engines, and just some overall technical issues that were kind of ongoing. As far as them being the second group, no, they've just come up on the horizon in the last couple of years. They've been doing work, I think around the country, but a little bit in California here. And, they just popped up. So this is a transaction between MES and MFC and CHP Energy.
And so you think the new company will be able to handle these technical issues that have come up?
I think they're a gifted group of engineers, and I've been very impressed with them. I've met them, and I've actually visited one of their sites in Oceanside, and it was an exceptionally well-run facility.
So it's just being transferred. There's no cost to the city then?
Absolutely no cost to the city. And I would like to say something, if I could, about the original partners is, they did a good job for the city for many years. this is an opportunity for us to realize that goal of 100% renewable, and I'm absolutely confident that I won't have to mention this again, but we'll be there soon.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I
you.
will move 7G.
Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Adam.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick comment. I want to thank Bob Berry, David Mead, Stephanie Wilson, and John Bradley for serving on the Cultural Affairs Commission. Much appreciated. We need work from you. Thank you. And also, the city had to buy 3 Honda Civics, compressed natural gas vehicles, to replace part of our fleet. The 5% local preference kicked in for local business, and we were able to buy them right here in Thousand Oaks. So that's a good thing. Honda of Thousand Oaks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item 8, Committee, Commission, Board reports. We do have the Sports Facilities Endowment Fund grants, and those will be presented by Lauren Remy, and please correct me if I mispronounced your name. And she is the Chair, Community Funding Review Committee.
Yes, it's Riem. Lauren Riem. First you and then you Seems to
Good
work.
evening.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. So thank you for your time this evening. I am the chairperson of the Sports Facilities Endowment Grant. I live in Westlake Village. I'm here to present to you the conclusions of our review of the applications. We received 10 grant applications totaling a little over $112,000. Our committee reviewed allocating the funds. We did it over 2 evenings, October 24th and November 14th. We made sure the applicants met the criteria, and we actually scored the criteria, and then we made funding recommendations to the council. Because the amount of the funding requests was a little over the $100,000 we had, we reduced some of the funding accordingly. But ultimately, we were able to fund all 10 requests. That's it.
Are there any questions of Mrs. Riem?
No, not. Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Irwin?
Good evening, and thank you for your work on this committee. Could you give me a little bit, I haven't seen these scores before, or I don't remember seeing them before. Can you give me a little idea of what goes into them? And then the second question is, I noticed that tied for number 1 and 2 in recommendations is Los Cerritos and then the Conejo Jewish Day School. Is there no, are these grants available then to public and private schools, I assume? There's no preference to public schools?
Yes. So, by the way, regarding the scoring, I'm going to follow this up with talking to you about the environmental community benefits. And in that case, we typically score. So we found that we loved that scoring process. So since it was the same committee, we applied our own scoring process to this in order to help us enable the more, to use just a scoring process to help us divvy up the value of each of the scores. So we scored like 0 to 15 using whether or not they were eligible for matching funds, whether they had a demonstrated need, whether it was a wide cross-section, and whether it was a capital improvement. Then using those scores 0 to 15, we added them together and then determined those grant requests that felt like they met the criteria to the nth degree, if you would. So that's why you end up seeing the numbers for the first time, because last year we didn't use that process to score against the sports facilities. And then ultimately, the Conejo Jewish Day School, yes, we were able to award for both public and private, and that was actually a benefit. The day school is on the church parking lot, so we thought it was a great wide section of community that would benefit from an open basketball court in an open area.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was wondering. So wide cross-section is how much of the public is actually benefiting from this.
That's right.
All right. Well, it's great that you're using that criteria so that we can see it after. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure.
Any other questions? None? Okay. I do have a question. What is the minimum score in order to receive funding?
Oh, so first of all, they were already weeded out. So if anyone wasn't eligible for funding, we removed that. But it happened in this case, all 10 were. So we didn't really need to create a minimum score for funding. We simply used the scoring as a way to help us stay clear and keep a group of people on point to know that each of these applications were worthy of being funded.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Sure.
So that was the presentation, and we do have a speaker on item 8A, and that speaker is Marla Trickle. Marla Trickle or Marla Trickell? She left? Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, do we have a motion? Councilmember Price.
I'd be happy to make that motion. I've forgotten the item number, though. And my computer's
It's
sticking.
8A.
Was that 8A?
Yeah.
8A, yes.
I would move approval of item 8A.
Recommendations 1 and 2,
Yes.
as well as B. No, that's the next one. Okay, that's 8A, 1 and 2. All right, we have a motion to approve item 8A, recommendation 1 and 2. Please vote.
Madam Mayor?
Oh, questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilmember Fox.
We
Mayor
only
Pro
have
Tem.
10 of those. It would be nice if you could just briefly outline for the public where these improvements are going. I don't know. There may be some interest. We did have one speaker from the Thousand Oaks High School baseball program, but as I look at the list, I think the general public may not recognize that, or maybe even the chair of the committee, what we do with this money and where it actually goes. Because if you look at the list, these are facilities that if you're involved with the schools and sports, you're likely going to be seeing these improvements. I just think it might be helpful for the general public to see.
Sure.
Where we spend this money.
I can go through
Mrs.
them
Ryan, go
relatively
ahead.
quickly. Yes? Okay, so the Caneo Jewish Day School was funding to install a community basketball court. The Los Cerritos Middle School, it was to expand the outdoor fitness area. Newbury Park High School Athletics was to purchase and install a new football scoreboard. Newbury Park High School Track and Field was a new pole vault pit. Newbury Park High School Wrestling Boosters, it was for new wrestling mats. Newbury Park Pony Baseball was to install electrical outlets at the batting cages. Thousand Oaks High School Boys Lacrosse Boosters was to purchase and outfit locker room, meeting room, and storage area. Thousand Oaks High School Baseball Boosters was to purchase field prep and install diamond turf. Westlake High School Football Boosters was to update the concession facilities to meet new health codes. And the Westlake High School Baseball Boosters was a new retaining wall and concrete slab behind the snack bar.
Very good.
Okay.
Mrs. Riem, I think you will also be presenting item 8B, so you may want to probably just stay there for just a little bit. We did have were there any additional questions or comments? No, we did have a motion to approve recommendation 1 and 2 for item 8A. Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Item 8B is the Community Enhancement Grant Award recommendation, also presented by Lauren Riem.
Right. Thank you.
And you probably want to go into detail about those as well.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that'll take a little longer because in this case, 19 grants applications were reviewed, but several of them had incomplete applications. So we ultimately only funded 12. Actually, of the 19, one of them we found didn't meet the criteria. Although it was a complete application, it was not for recycling purpose, and that was Maple Elementary School. So we did not fund it, and we did not score it, because the minimum criteria required that it was some form of a recycling project. So of the 19, we awarded 12. The total request for funds was $69,200. We had $45,000 to fund. So, so some of the criteria were utilizing donations or in-kind services, whether it's a public school recycling project or if the project displays innovation. So those are examples of some of the criteria. So some examples of the grants that were funded were Caneo Elementary. This school proposed developing a garden, a meditation and composting area, removing concrete and non-native plants, and replacing with flower and water conservation native plants. The Panther Prowler Newbury Park High School newspaper is reducing the use of landfill space and plastic bags by using donated T-shirts and e-purposing them into new reusable tote bags for carrying groceries, library books, gym clothes. The tote bags will be distributed through the Community Free project. Aspen Elementary Parent Faculty Association was another grant that was awarded. As part of the Eco Action Plan for National Wildlife, students proposed to conduct energy-efficient audits at their school. These are basically elementary students who want to audit their own school. Baseline energy and water use data was provided to this team through the Caneo Valley Unified School District Energy Education, and will be used to identify saving measures and track results. Based on the proposed energy-efficient audits, installation of water efficiency fixture upgrades, energy-efficient technology equipment, those kinds of things would be installed. Do you want me to list all of the 12 organizations that received awards?
Yeah, since we don't have any slides or anything where we could see it, why don't you go ahead and just list them really quickly?
Okay. So, so just the organizations that received benefits from this grant were Thousand Oaks High School Dance Team, Newbury Park High School Ecological Art Class, Panther Prowler, Newbury Park High School Student Newspaper, Caneo Open Space Foundation, Caneo Valley Botanic Garden, Caneo Elementary, Thousand Oaks High School Link Crew, Caneo Valley Unified School District Early Childhood Center at University, Glenwood Elementary School, City Corps of the Central Coast, Aspen Elementary Parent Faculty Association, the Discovery Center for Science and Technology, and that's it.
We do have several public speakers. Are there any questions before Councilmember Irwin?
Maybe I missed it. What was the reason that the last three were turned down?
Oh, well, there was only one that was turned down because Maple Elementary School requested a track. There was no recycling effort.
No, I'm not talking about the Maple one, but the Banyan, Sequoia, and Lang Ranch that they had all suggested planting native plants.
Those were incomplete applications.
Okay. Oh, okay. And then the top three were also incomplete.
Yeah, ultimately we had 6 incomplete applications.
Thank you.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Actually, I do have a follow-up. Planting native plants would actually qualify or not?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Any additional questions? None? Then I will, thank you very much, Mrs. Riem.
Sure.
I will call the public speakers now. The first one is Kelly Kazmierczuk, followed by Emily Abrams and Patty Stoltz.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Kelly Kazmierczuk. I'm a resident of Thousand Oaks and a parent at Conejo Elementary School. I'm here this evening with Paula Gollum, the assistant administrator at Conejo Elementary. We are here on behalf of the students, staff, and parents at Conejo Elementary and Open Classroom Leadership Magnet to thank you for considering our community enhancement grant application. This grant will not only give us the opportunity to beautify our school, it will also give our students the opportunity to connect with the environment. This grant will allow us to take 2 areas of the school and turn them into beautiful gardens and outdoor classrooms. Our hope is by the end of the school year, there will be students working outside every day, tending to the gardens, learning about native plants and how to save water, composting, and caring for the earth around them. By giving students direct experiences in nature, we We hope they will learn to love and care for the environment. We've already seen this happen. As part of the application, students from every grade level designed plans for the gardens. Many students requested that the areas be kept trash-free. They are already connecting with the space and taking ownership for a small piece of our planet. It will be exciting to see what happens when they spend more time in the gardens. Again, thank you for considering Conejo Elementary's grant that both Paula and I are strongly in favor of.
Thank you. Next speaker is Emily Abrams, followed by Patty Stoltz, who will be followed by Marina Frank.
Hello, my name is Emily Abrams. I'm a junior at Thousand Oaks High School. In addition to being a student, I am also a part of the club called Link Crew. And Link Crew is our 9th grade transition and intervention program on campus. I'm here to recognize and thank you for the opportunity to apply for the Community Enhancement Grant through the city's Public Works Department. We're excited for this opportunity to provide Earth Day activities for the Children's Library in April. In addition to this grant, these funds will allow the Link Crew program to provide freshman orientation, lunchtime activities, and tutoring. Thank you again for this opportunity to participate in the program and improve Thousand Oaks High School and our community.
Thank you, Emily. And I think I mispronounced the, oh no, that is Patty Stoltz, followed by Marina, I'm guessing here, Zeranik? I'm not quite sure. Good evening, Mrs. Stoltz.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here tonight. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on the Thousand Oaks High School dance team. We are often mistaken as a regular club or a regular sport. We do have, Thousand Oaks High School has had a dance program for 23 years now. They started with about 20 members within their dance program. Within those 23 years, they now have dance in Thousand Oaks High School in lieu of physical education. Within that program, we do have a competition team, and we have today applied for this grant through the competition team. This competition team is fully self-funded by the parents. Very costly to be on this competition dance team. We're also very proud to say that Thousand Oaks High School does not take only studio kids, and when I say studio dancers, it's to the equivalent of club kids when you're growing up in sports and coming into the club. We create these dancers within this program. In partnership with the Park and Rec, we are hoping that if this motion is made today, that we will be able to help the Spring Meadows Park on Olson Road as well as the South Thousand Oaks Community Park with the low water and no water efforts. And we will have all of our 26 dancers that are on this competition team out there working alongside with the parents, and feel very honored to have them out there working and being able to hopefully use these funds for our upcoming competition season. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Marina Zeranik, followed by Anastasia Alcala and Noel Macri. You can all make your way down to the front already. And when you're at the microphone, just tell us what your name is, who you are, how old you are, and with which school you are.
My name is Marina Zernick. I'm in 5th grade. I'm 10 years old, and I go to Aspen Elementary School. I'm here for the Eco Club. We went with the Community Enhancement Grant. I would like our club to help improve water and energy efficient technology and fixtures at our school. This will help us with our Eco Audit and Action Plan to earn National Wildlife Federal Green Flag Award. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Anastasia? Or Anastasia? You tell me. Anastasia, okay.
My name is Anastasia Alcala, and I am in the Eco Club at Aspen Elementary School. We went on a scavenger hunt to find water and energy efficiency examples at our school. I'm excited to help others learn about how to help the environment with the community enhancement grant. Thank you.
Great. And the last speaker regarding this item is Noelle Mockery. Hi, Noelle.
Hi. Hi, my name is Noelle Macri. I'm coming from Aspen Elementary, and I'm in first grade. We can help our planet by saving water, power, and caring for others. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Noelle. You read really, really well. Great job. So we didn't even have to ask you, Mrs. Riem, any questions. All of these children explained exactly what the money will do to enhance our community. So thank you all very much for speaking. Do we have any questions? None. Okay, then I am looking for a motion. Mr. Price, you're it tonight.
Okay, well, I would gladly put forth a motion to approve item 8B, recommendations 1 and 2. This is a fantastic program, and I'm just eager to see it continue.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. And now we have arrived at item 9A, for which most of you, I think, are in the audience. As I mentioned at the beginning of the council meeting, we are reopening the public hearing to give you a chance for additional testimony, as long as it's not a repetition or a repeat of the last hearing, because whatever was said at the last hearing is already part of the official record. So if you have any additional evidence or testimony to present, we invite you to come to the podium. And I will, of course, call your names. And the city clerk will have to reopen this particular hearing.
Hearing advertised as required by law is reopened to consider agenda item 9A, the Miller Ranch Project Annexation 2010-70183, Zone Change 2010-70185, Tentative Track Map 2010-70187, Residential Plan Development 2010-70179, Oak Tree Permit 2010-70181, Landmark Tree Permit 2012-70078. The applicant is KSK Investments LP. It's located the east side of Upper Ranch Road, approximately 350 feet north of Canaan Road. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council regarding this item. And speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. We have 16 speakers at the present time. The applicant will be allowed 15 minutes with a 5-minute rebuttal, and the remaining speakers will be allowed 2 minutes each.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We do, as part of the record, announce that we have 3 council members who met with either party regarding this particular project, and that information is in the supplemental packet. Mr. Prescott is our Community Development Director, and he will give us a brief overview of what has transpired thus far.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. You do have a report this evening. As it indicates, this matter was heard on November 13th. The City Council, at the conclusion of that hearing, gave staff direction to prepare resolutions or other documents to terminate annexation proceedings and to deny the related pre-zoning application and entitlement applications. In the interim, the applicant did approach staff with a request for a continuance, asking earnestly for some additional time to conduct some further outreach in the neighborhood and hopefully come up with a development plan that addressed their concerns and would be acceptable to City Council. and staff does believe it's in the city's interest to maintain jurisdiction over this, and at some point in time to annex the property and control its development. And we are therefore recommending that we grant the applicant's request for an additional continuance for that purpose. In the alternative, if the council chooses to follow through the direction given at the conclusion of the November 13th hearing, we do have 6 resolutions, I believe, to terminate the annexation and deny the pre-zoning application as well as the development entitlements. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Prescott, what was that date again?
The date? Your prior hearing was on November 13th.
Oh, I thought you had mentioned a date regarding the annexation. I misunderstood then. Okay.
No, I didn't.
Thank you. Okay, we do have several, as you heard, 16 speakers. And again, I encourage you, if you are going to repeat what you said a couple of weeks ago, it's not going to change the official record. We appreciate it if you presented us with new information tonight. As was stated by by the city clerk, the applicant has a little bit more time to present his case. And here for the applicant is Mark Kestenbaum. And you have, did you say 15 minutes? 15 minutes. Followed by Mark Sellers. Good evening.
Hi. Good evening, Council. My name is Mark Kestenbaum. I'm the principal of KSK Investments, LP, the developer of the project and the applicant. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the proposed project and our request for a continuance. As you know, we've been working on this project for over 3 years with the city and with the community. We've devoted countless hours to designing the project. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on entitlement work, including the preparation of an EIR. The project conforms with the city's general plan that's been in place since 1972, and it performs with the guidelines of orderly development. We're here seeking this continuance today so that we have adequate time to develop modified plans for the project, and so we can demonstrate to you the community support that the project truly has. Project's a quality project that's going to bring executive homes into the area. In just 4 weeks, with Thanksgiving in between, we were able to get 132 support letters. I'd like to present these letters to the city clerk for the record. I think I've been waiting my whole life to say that. At the same time, I also have a second copy that I'd like to give out to the council so you can flip through it and you can take a look. I truly want to thank all the people who have come out in support of the project today. It's very meaningful for us. We really appreciate your help here, and we appreciate your support. In addition to the letters, we've been able to bring several, I think the number was 16 residents to speak at this hearing today in support of the project. We have community HOAs that are in favor of the project. At the November hearing, you heard only from a small select group of people. We asked for the opportunity to show you the full extent of the community's support for the project, and not just what we've been able to pull together in 4 weeks. We have asked the 7 or so neighbors, represented by Mr. McGuire, to meet with us since the November hearing. Presently, they've chosen not to do so. Despite this, we are optimistic that if we can get the continuance today, we will be able to meet with them, and we will have the ability to further modify the project to take into account more of their concerns. We are very interested in creating a project that the community will be proud of, that will represent the North Ranch area, and will be something that will really show off what North Ranch is. We want to be responsive to the concerns of the various constituencies. As evidence of our intentions, we've already granted a number of concessions to the McGuire Group, including the 20-foot greenbelt buffer, grading all the lots simultaneously so that to minimize the potential disruption to the neighborhood. dressing up the second entrance off Canaan to make people interested in using that, having 9 homes to be single-story, and dropping the number of homes, most importantly, from 22 at the beginning to 14. Nevertheless, we clearly heard the council's directions and instructions to us, and I want to make that statement unequivocally. We heard you, and all we're asking for is the time that we need to prepare the modifications so we can do it in an intelligent and in a correct way. Ultimately, a continuance today is in the best interest of the city. Staff supports the project. The greater community supports the project. The project has public benefits, like a dedication of 2.5 acres of land with trail access. There are fees, there are jobs, there are a lot of public benefits here. I truly don't see the downside in the council granting us the continuance. Please give us the time so that we can prepare a detailed modification plan so we can talk with the neighbors in the community and try our best to try and come to a modified project design. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kestenbaum. Are there any questions of Mr. Kestenbaum? Mr. Adam.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. Kestenbaum.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, in your letter to the council, you clearly state that the project has to be modified.
Yes.
To accommodate the neighborhood concerns. And then you also mentioned what you felt were the risks of leaving the property as private property in the county,
right,
out of the city control.
Right.
Are you talking about alternate uses that might be there? Or,
yes.
Or what risks exactly?
I mean, the risks are the county zoning is very broad. The county zoning allows for cattle. It allows for farming operations. It allows for, I believe, even a recycling center. Many of those uses are not discretionary. I think the recycling center might need a CUP, but I know that the farming doesn't. I know that that is absolutely not a discretionary action. That's a zoning clearance. It's as simple as that. And I'm struggling to understand why the neighbors are so against the project in light of the fact that the alternative use is so incompatible with these existing multi-million-dollar homes. I mean, you know, truly our intent has always been, since we started this process 3 years ago, to try and achieve a measure of satisfaction within the community. We've met with the neighbors 2 times. We've granted them concessions. And again, we've heard council's direction, and we will sit back down and we will do it again. The county zoning is really not something that would benefit the city of Thousand Oaks. And I think the city attorney can speak to that. You don't have to take my word for it.
All right. Just one other quick question.
Sure.
If I may, do you still stand by the assertion that anything less than 14 homes is economically infeasible?
No. 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 Because we will take a longer-term approach and a longer-term horizon to the project, and perhaps it's not feasible today right at this moment, but given the time that this is going to take, we're in it for the long haul, and we will develop a plan that works. And so we will move off of that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kestenbaum.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Mr. Kestenbaum. The next speaker is Mr. Mark Sellers, representing KSK Investments. Good evening.
Good evening. Mark Sellers, Jackson DeMarco Law Firm, here on behalf of the applicant. When I met the applicant a few weeks ago, I clearly stated to him that I wouldn't agree to help out unless he was willing to redesign the project after meeting with the neighboring property owners. I saw no advantage in trying to resubmit and continue with this project the way it was proposed. Grudgingly, they agreed. They had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in trying to design a project that fit in with that neighborhood, and they felt they did with meeting with staff. So they were very cautious about just spending a lot of money again to do a redesign. So what really is before the council is only not the merits of the project or any project. Tonight we're just seeking a continuance so that we have an opportunity to refine that project to something that we can bring back to you. And that's going to cost some money. That's going to require some assurances from the City Council that, yes, you're still interested in having an annexation. If there is no interest in an annexation, then you've lost, basically, you've refused to give control, which reminds me of a situation years ago with John Bird, who basically graded the Resno hillside. in the area that wasn't in the city. The city council came and they were very upset. They felt that this violated the city's 25% rule. It did, but that was in the county, and the county has different standards. So it's an issue of control. I think this gives the city council an opportunity to say yes to that control later on. It also preserves the status quo. It doesn't mean that you're going to approve the project or approve any particular pre-zoning, but at least you continue with the opportunity to make this a logical part of the city. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Doesn't appear so. Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Next up, we have John Whitboard, followed by Frank Kushari and Jim Lyon.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thanks for taking time to hear us. My name is John Whitboard. I live on Rainfield Street in Thousand Oaks, California. I Googled it today. I guess I'm about 800 to 900 yards from the project that's being considered. So I'm in the area. I'm familiar with it. I have twins, 5-year-olds. I take walks with them, and we go by the fire station. My son likes fire stations, and we've gone by the property over the years. And I follow real estate for whatever reason, and I saw the transaction when that property sold, and I was curious what was going to happen with it, and I was actually a little concerned with how it was going to be developed. I was hoping that it would be consistent with the rest of the community because it's a very nice community. It's a lovely street. And it does appear, based on what the developer's trying to do, that it would be consistent. I guess it's about a 28-acre parcel, and I know the 14 homes seem like that may be something other than they're going to develop, but that's like 2 acres per parcel, and I recognize that the homes around it are similar in size. I'm already out of time. I do believe that all development is not bad if it's done really well. I think it's a good thing. There's not a negative. I think that the topography of it would make sense. It invites development. I also think that there'd be a substantial tax increase, which I think is nice. I think currently it's generating $48,000 in property tax. It would be over $400,000 if it was developed. And the folks that develop their homes, I think most of them I looked up when they were built. Most of them are built in the late 80s, early 90s. And those homes also were permitted sometime by a council that allowed them to develop those. And to me, when you spend any time in that street and you see 1 and 2 acre properties along that street, and then you see a 28-acre parcel with a shack way in the back, it's not even consistent with the neighborhood. So I encourage the council to consider letting them do a good job of developing that property and adding to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitboard. Next speaker, Frank Kushari, or Kushar, followed by Jim Lyon and Neil McGuire.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Frank Kushar. I'm a 20-year resident of Westlake Village, 10-year resident of North Ranch. I live in close proximity to the proposed project. My wife and I were elated to find out there'd be single-story homes that are newly developed in North Ranch. I see no reason to have all this opposition to the project. There's nothing there but chain link fence, some barbed wire, and some block wall, and a lot of dirt. Truth of the matter is I love our community. I have 3 children that go to school here. I'm hoping to find a single-level home that I can bring my parents into, let them live their elder years in. It's impossible to find new homes in our area. So I hope that the council will hear from the people, allow us to speak, and consider the proposal. Thank you.
All right, next speaker is Jim Lyon, followed by Neil McGuire, and well, we'll see. Good evening.
Good evening. Your Honor, members of the City Council, my name is Jim Lyon. I'm a resident and a property owner in the city of Thousand Oaks, and I'd like to urge you to grant the continuance for the Miller Ranch project. I think it's pretty well understood that there are some very positive economic benefits to this project, construction jobs, increase in the property tax base, and many future years of increases in sales tax revenues. In addition to the economic benefits, most importantly, this development is appropriate and consistent with the surrounding community. And as a homeowner and someone who has a home developed on his property in this city, I don't know why these landowners shouldn't have the same benefit, particularly given the quality of this project, and I would urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Neil McGuire, followed by what I believe is Tom O'Swait or Tom O'Swalt.
Good evening, Mayor Bill De La Pena and fellow council members. Neil McGuire of the Alston & Bird Law Firm here in Thousand Oaks. I'm a product of Thousand Oaks, but a current resident of Moore Park. On behalf of the members of the North Ranch community that have opposed the Miller Ranch project, we do not oppose the developer's request for a continuance of this matter. We understand this, the city's regular practice to grant such requests from the applicant. It's also our understanding that the granting of this continuance in no way reflects upon the merits of any future project that the applicant may propose. As it has always been, our goal is to preserve the existing open space zoning at Miller Ranch. We do look forward to discussing the possibility of keeping that with the applicant. I'd like to note for the record, because of what the applicant stated, I've never been unwilling to meet with anybody. 2 years ago, actually it was December of 2010, I approached the applicant's representative to try to initiate discussions primarily focused on purchasing the property in order to preserve that existing open space. And, you know, I was frankly told in no uncertain terms that there was just absolutely no interest. You know, I've heard tonight these issues with the county zoning, the alternative uses. We've discussed this. We discussed this back in November. I'm not sure that I'm hearing a good faith effort tonight to really listen to what was said in November, which what I heard from this council was the existing proposal that was heard in November was too large, and as proposed, it didn't have a public benefit. I'm not really sure that I'm hearing, you know, that tonight that there are going to be significant changes. We're open to it. We're willing to listen. Again, you know, we obviously would like to keep the existing open space, you know, that's there, that's been there. That's where our interest lies. You know, I hope that the applicant is open to that as well. And I thank you for your time and consideration.
Mr. McGuire, Councilmember Adam has a question for you.
I'm sorry, Mr. McGuire. Please tell me again who you represent.
I represent several residents in the North Ranch community, primarily on Upper Ranch Road. But all in all, and again, this goes to something the applicant said, this was not a small set of people. We had over 200 folks in the city submit letters on our behalf. So again, just going to painting the accurate picture here, it's not just 6 or 7 people. There is a very large group, you know, that has expressed opposition to this project.
Did I hear you say in the beginning of your remarks, however, that you would have no objection to a continuance?
We do not object to a continuance tonight. Okay. You know, frankly, as it was presented to me by Mr. Sellers, it was just going to be just that, a continuance, and not a reopening on really what has been the merits of the project. And, you know, we do not oppose the continuance of the project. We hope that the issues that were raised in November are, as the applicant said, unequivocally heard and reflected in any future conduct. So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, my question, I just wanted Mr. McGuire to reiterate, one, who he represented, which is the parties that were here last time opposing that,
yeah,
and that you agreed with a continuance. So essentially, we have both attorney representatives representing the council that you are in agreement that a continuance granted tonight is in everyone's interest.
Yes, and just to clarify as well, I asked my clients to stay home and not turn this into another big event just because I thought this was going to be a non-event continuance. Right. It's, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas Waite, followed by Keith Myers and Casey Clausen.
It's Tom Oswald. I'm sorry for the architectural scribble there, but when you're trying to pronounce my name, I go, oh, God, it's got to be me. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, Tom Oswald, Thousand Oaks. I'm a local architect, 25 years in Thousand Oaks. I'm in support of the annexation of Miller Ranch. It makes good zoning sense, and it's compatible with existing land uses and with the master plan. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Oswald. Keith Myers, followed by Casey Clausen and Jordan Cohen.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you for hearing me. I'm Keith Myers. I have several businesses in Thousand Oaks and Westlake, and currently a member or resident of Simi Valley. I think it's maybe a moot point because it seems both parties have agreed that they would like to or agree to the continuance, but my personal opinion is that anything that serves the public and the greater good of the community by bringing in jobs and economic stimulus and still addresses the concerns of those opposed to it, as it seems like Middle Ranch folks have, it does have a lot of merit. I think we need to make sure that the private party, the private property rights are observed, and I think it does serve the public and it does serve the community to consider this project, and at the very least to grant a continuance so that they can resolve any differences there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Casey Clausen, followed by Jordan Cohen and Joe Gibson.
I'd like to thank you guys for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Casey Clausen. I live in Westlake Village, California, and I'm here on behalf of my family, my brother, as well as my parents who have lived in North Ranch for the past 15 years. On a personal note, I'm recently married, going on 9 months, and my wife and I are having a little one. We were ecstatic when we found out about the project that was going to get ready to take off, and we read a few weeks ago in the Acorn that there was a little holdup. So on a personal note, I live on the lake right now, and we'd love the opportunity here in a couple of years to have that right. If I work hard enough to hopefully buy a house in that neighborhood. Anytime we own our own business, anytime there's growth in the city of Westlake, we feel it's a great thing, and we love for the project to go through. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jordan Cohen, followed by Joe Gibson and Chris Bell.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Jordan Cohen. I'm here to talk about how it would increase the value of real estate. I'm proud to say I'm the top real estate agent in Ventura County. I don't say that for egotistical purposes, purely for credibility. Whenever you have a new development in a high-end area, you're going to have big dollar sales on a big price per square foot basis. They're going to be brand new. They're going to be on big lots. It's a huge benefit for North Ranch. It's a huge benefit because these are going to increase the price per square foot in North Ranch. I have a huge demand for people that want new homes on big lots, and there's not a lot out there. There's none, to be honest with you. So I was excited about this because I know it would give me opportunities to sell some big homes. So that's just what I wanted to say. It's a benefit to everybody as far as raising the value of their properties. Thank you.
And for the record, your city of residence is Oak Park?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Joe Gibson, representing the applicant.
Yes, Joe Gibson, apologize for my voice. In the spirit of true disclosure, I want to let you know that I'm also a board member for Canal Recreational Park District and a board member for COSCA, but I'm not representing either of those organizations tonight. That being said, I have been retained by the applicant. I have worked with staff regarding environmental issues on this. And as a result of the last hearing, I've had discussion with the applicant to respond to sort of the question is, what are the benefits? And without going into any detail, we have shared discussion about what greater community benefits beyond those previously listed, whether it's with CRPD, whether it's with COSCA, whether it's with the city's Affordable Housing Fund or whatever, that the applicant may elect to participate in. Again, not making any commitments on the applicant, but having those discussions. So my residence is here, my business is here in the city, and I support the continuance.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Chris Bell, followed by Ann Meir and David Turnbull.
Hello, my name is Chris Bell, resident of Thousand Oaks since '84. I am a certified personal trainer and run my business out of Westlake Village. I support the applicant's request for the continuance. As a business owner, my primary demographic is the affluent executive level community members. So not only do I benefit from future residents of their caliber, but also other small businesses. Again, I have no opposition to this. I come from a family of contractors. I know that contracting right now is slow, and everybody in that field is looking for work. So if a project of this scale was to manifest, it could employ hundreds of people for months and months and months on end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mayor, if you could please state your city of residence, followed by David Turnbull and Kurt Yeager.
Yes, my name is Ann Myrie. That's all right. I live in San Ardo, California. I am here to speak on behalf of my sister, Jane Wooster. I am Mr. and Mrs. Miller's niece. They were the previous owners of this property before KSK. My sister wanted to say good evening to the council members. You heard from her at a prior meeting how our aunt and uncle left their property over here on Westlake and Hampshire Road because taxes became so high when Westlake began to develop. And they moved out to what is currently called Upper Ranch Road. At that time, well out of the sphere of influence of Thousand Oaks and Westlake Village. As most of you, if you're old enough to remember, there was really nothing on the other side of Westlake Boulevard. All the development was down here with the Westlake Inn and the lake, which wiped out my grandparents' first house. They had offers for development of their property previously, and they thought eventually this property would be developed. And among the reasons that they thought it would be developed is when the city finally reached Canaan Road, they had the opportunity to hook up to city water. They had the opportunity to have city garbage removal, and they got Southern California gas service. 4 years after our aunt died in 2002, we put her property on the market. And at that time, we sent out 29 notices of sale. 9 went to entities in Thousand Oaks and Westlake Village, 1 to Moorpark, 1 to Simi Valley, 4 to Calabasas, and 1 to Ventura, 1 to Parzana. I mention this because much was made at the last meeting that the developer, K&S Homes, is from out of the area. This is not because people in the area did not know that this property was for sale. And they had the opportunity to make a bid. Is that my buzzer? Darn it. Okay.
Yes, it is.
I would just like to skip a little bit and say we had offers ranging from $12.5 million to $1,700,000. We had people who made offers and backed out, and we have had people who made offers and walked away from this property. We've met some nice people, and we've met some really, really not nice people. Some people who have money and some who only said they had money.
Mrs. Meyer, you will have to wind it down now. You went well over your time.
Okay, and so we support the continuance for this period of time.
Thank you very much. Next up is David Turnbull, followed by Kurt Yeager.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is David Turnbull, and I'm an 11-year resident of North Ranch Community, and with my wife and my 2 children. We live on Cresthaven Drive in North Ranch, approximately 1 mile from the proposed project. My wife and I have reviewed the Miller Ranch development project in detail with objective interests. We've noted the existing site contains a home and several outbuilding structures in poor condition. We've also noted the estate homes surrounding this proposed project on 3 sides, accessible from Canaan Road. We understand the proposed project entails the annexation of the site to the city of Thousand Oaks and the construction of 14 homes, as previously presented, on 27 acres, as well as a donation of 2.5 acres to the city for open space. We strongly support the project for the following key reasons. Conversion of agricultural land to low-density housing is consistent with the city's general plan and the aesthetics of the North Ranch community. The second is new residents will contribute to additional sales, property, and income tax revenues to the fiscal budgets of the City of Thousand Oaks, County of Ventura, and State of California. We all know funds that are desperately needed in these days and times. And third, realization that this proposed project will enhance the value of property for all homeowners in the North Ranch community. I fully support the proposed development project and urge the council to grant the continuance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kurt Yeager, and please let us know your city of residence. And the last speaker is Nancy Schreiner.
Hi, my name is Kurt Yeager. I'm a native of Thousand Oaks, currently of Simi Valley. My business has been in town since the late 70s, and I've seen tons of growth, most smart, some pushing the envelope, and some not so good for the community. I think the Miller Ranch project will be good use of the property. It fits the general plan of North Ranch, and it's better suited for the use of the land than a ranch that is in dire need of repair and restoration. I think that this project should be approved. It will bring back work to the local community and make good use of the land. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last speaker is Mrs. Schreiner.
Good evening, Mayor Bill De La Pena, council members, and happy holidays to all of you, and welcome to our newest council member. Nancy Kirsten Schreiner, Nordman, Carmody, Herring, Compton, and I am outside legal counsel for KSK, and I reside in unincorporated Ventura County. As we left here on November 13th, I believe the city and the city council were embarking upon troubled waters. As noted in the staff report, I'd like to take this opportunity to read that. Staff is concerned that the termination of annexation proceedings for properly completed surrounded by the city and within the sphere of influence may be viewed as inconsistent with previously adopted city policy, specifically the guidelines for orderly development. And you've heard tonight the special benefits for this particular project. Although not legally required for small annexations, there was a discussion that the council was having last time. I'm not going to go through all the special benefits. We did that last time, and you've heard from many speakers this evening. But I believe that it's important, especially with a new council member, that we note that we have complied with the sphere of influence. It has been noted in the sphere of influence for 42 years, since 1970. The guidelines for orderly development, the Thousand Oaks area plan, and the project did not seek any waivers and complied with all development standards of the city. I think it's important to allow the city to go forward with this project and allow the continuance for further discussion and potential modifications and revisions between the applicants and discussions for the neighbors. And I strongly request that you support the continuance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Schreiner. And we just had one late ad, which will be our final speaker, Martha Vincent. Or Billy, please tell me your last name. Thank you.
My name is Billy Ridge, and I mentioned my wife. We own 3 houses in Westlake, 2 in North Ranch, and 1 in Sherwood. And I'm an electrical contractor in Thousand Oaks since 1980. And this project is really going to be something for the community as a contractor and as a homeowner. My 2 houses are within a mile of the proposed property, and the work that could be created for local contractors and local businesses is great. I mean, we have a vacant lot sitting there forever, and it's a great opportunity, we think, as homeowners and local business people. We're excited that this could happen, and we're for the continuance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ridge. He was our final speaker, and we turn it over to staff for any questions by the council. Or Mr. Prescott, would you like to start out with any comments you would like to make regarding the statements made?
No, I think that we have both sides agreeing to a continuance for a stated purpose, and we think that's a good idea. So we'd recommend the council go ahead and continue the matter. We had originally recommended to a date uncertain, and that's because we really don't know how long it will take for that negotiation to occur, and then for them to come back to the council with a revised project. And typically the process at that point would be for the council to refer it back to the Planning Commission for another hearing, and then it would come back to council for final action. Basically, it's in the applicant's interest to move things along quickly because if there is no further council action, then the project really won't go forward. So unless the applicant wishes to suggest a continuous date, we would recommend date uncertain, and then when the applicant was ready and hopefully the neighbors were on the same page, then we would schedule a new hearing date and renotice it.
Thank you, Mr. Prescott. Are there any questions of Mr. Prescott from the dais here? None? I do have a question, or more of a request for clarification. Council took action to basically cancel the initiation of annexation at the November 13th hearing. And is that still happening regardless with what will happen tonight, or is that something that will be put on hold?
Well, it's really part of the package for the council, so that is part of the continuance. The direction of the council was to come back with the necessary documents to terminate annexation proceedings and by that terminate the project. And so we did do that. And the applicant has requested the continuance, and the neighbors are in favor of the continuance. So council still has the option, if it wishes, to proceed with denying the project now and terminating the annexation. But if you do continue it, then everything is continued, and it would come back to you. If the council is not interested in annexing the property, then there's no real point in considering a project.
That was going to be my next question, because at the November 13th council meeting, we said and voted and stated that we would not be in favor, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we would not be in favor of annexation. And so now it seems as though we are, and we also recommended that they go back to the drawing board and talk to the neighbors as well. So I want to make sure that it seems from your statement at the beginning of this hearing that city staff highly recommends annexation, but that recommendation was in conflict with the vote taken on November 13th. I see that my colleague, Mr. Price, has a question or comment. No? Oh, okay. I thought you did. Any other? All right. Very good. The applicant has 5-minute rebuttal, if you so desire. And it looks like Mr. Mark Sellers will be representing the applicant.
Well, the real request is to continue not only the unwinding of the annexation, but any decision on the project. And that's our understanding, in order to provide some assurance to spend a lot of money redesigning the project, meeting with the neighbors. So that's my understanding of what's before you tonight, is the decision to unwind the annexation, or, as we request, continue that to some date in the future. And again, that's needed so that they can justify going back to the property owners and spending a lot of money on redesign. And I haven't heard any opposition to the continuance, so there's not a lot to rebut.
Very good. Okay. Then we close the public hearing unless there are any additional questions or comments. Questions of staff? If there are none, then the hearing is closed, and I open it up to a council discussion. Any discussion regarding the staff's recommendation for a continuance? None? Then I'm looking for a, Mr. Fox?
Sure.
Vote, perhaps? A motion?
I'll move that the continuance be granted, and for the record, I think as Mr. Prescott points out, this is an entirety, this is the whole issue, we're continuing whole item, because it just makes sense. I think the council's pleased that both sides have agreed to enter into some more substantive discussions with respect to this property. So I would just offer a couple of thoughts to both parties. First, to the applicant, it was very clear by really the majority of the council, at the time 4 members, now we have a full council, that there were real issues with respect to what was originally proposed, substantive real issues. And so it would be my sense that those comments and those concerns would be reflected in any subsequent conversations with the homeowners. To the homeowner's attorney, I would certainly hope that the issue of certainty and the issue of taking control of one's destiny is part of your discussion as well. I've for many years now indicated that I think it's always best if you can control your own destiny rather than have the council, or worse, a court, who will look at issues that have absolutely nothing to do with community benefit, deciding on land use issues that affect people's lives. So without getting into the merits of the legal aspects of it, it would be my hope that both sides just enter into genuine, good faith discussions with really the realities of what they heard from the City Council, because I think, as the City Attorney pointed out, Council has fairly wide discretion as to whether we want to annex, and then ultimately, if we do annex the property, what happens there. The other side of that is there is substantial public policy with respect to spheres of influence and all the stuff that my sense is will be raised by the applicant if they see that there's virtually no discussion whatsoever. And so a little nudging from the dais to both sides to enter into good faith discussions, and hopefully, however it resolves out, at least at a minimum, council is assured that there was substantive discussions on both sides. If you can't come to an agreement, that happens, and then council will make a decision one way or the other. But with that, certainly both sides have agreed to the continuance, and I would move forward with that recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Fox. Are there any comments regarding the motion? Mr. Price.
Yes, I would be in support of that motion. I think that with both parties agreeing to this continuance, I think it's in the best interest of everybody if they do get together and heed the admonitions of Councilmember Fox. And I guess I'll just leave it there. I think that you said it all, sir.
Mr. Adam.
Yeah, I think a continuance is absolutely fair here. You know, it's, as Councilmember Fox said, it's always nice when the parties come before us with most of the resolutions worked out ahead of time. And that didn't happen this time, but you have a second chance now. And I would hope that you can build a consensus, take into consideration what's happened in the prior hearing, and come up with a project that's acceptable to all sides. Thanks.
Mr. Fox, as maker of the motion, any final comments? None. I too will be in favor of the motion, since both sides, both parties agreed to that. Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And now we move on to item 9B. Madam Clerk.
Hearing advertised as required by law is open to consider agenda item 9B, inclusionary housing in lieu and non-residential development leakage fees. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council regarding this public hearing, and we have no speaker cards for this item.
Okay, and tonight item 9B will be presented by Community Development Director John Prescott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The purpose of this hearing is to consider whether the City Council should extend the current fee rates for the inclusionary housing in lieu fee, which applies to residential development, and the linkage fee, which applies to non-residential development, at their current levels, which are 0 for another 6 months. As you can see in the background section, the city did adopt a comprehensive affordable housing ordinance, including an inclusionary housing requirement on certain residential projects and a non-residential development linkage fee on non-residential projects. And shortly after those fees were adopted at the rates set forth in the staff report, the economy went into the recession, and particularly the housing and development economy. And the council accordingly temporarily set those fee rates at 0 with a direction to bring it back annually to review it. We've done that for several years, and then most recently at the beginning of the current fiscal year. At that time, the council directed us to relook at those fee rates to see if it was time to start bringing those back. We have hired a consultant to do the necessary analysis and documentation if we are going to reimpose those fees. And unfortunately, that work is not completed yet. We anticipate the work will be done by February, and then we'll be in a position to come back to council as early as March. So our recommendation now is just to extend the fees at their current zero rates through the end of this fiscal year, and then we would propose new fees for the upcoming fiscal year.
Thank you, Mr. Prescott. Are there any questions of Mr. Prescott from the council? Mr. Adam.
Good evening, Mr. Prescott. In the staff report, it mentions about the report that we're anticipating in February that will be an opportunity to adjust fees to appropriate levels based on findings of that update. So does that, am I to take that or make the assumption, it's never good to assume, but make the assumption that the fees would in all probability be reinstated to one degree or another?
That's a realistic outcome. It's a possibility. It depends on the findings of the study, because one of the kind of the important factors in particularly the development, the non-residential development linkage fee is the project feasibility analysis. And what happened after the recession began is that there were basically no projects that were feasible, and therefore that type of fee could not be justified. Mm-hmm. The residential linkage fee is more of a it's more of a police power requirement. It's an obligation of developers to include a certain percentage of affordable housing in their projects, which they can, at their election, buy out with a fee. And the city, because of the housing economy, the city council decided to, those original rates were $9,000 for single-family homes and $25,000 for condominiums, and that was, at a time when some of the condos around here, basic condos, were up in the $500,000 range, and now they're in the $300,000 range. So you have that kind of matter of equity. The developer can still do 10% and actually provide the units, but most developers don't like to do that, and the city doesn't like that, because then we have an ongoing administration situation to make sure that those are only sold to people of the right income categories for the right price, et cetera. So I think we've been watching the national economy. We've been watching the local housing market. There are signs that things are, prices have stabilized and are perhaps starting to come back. We're getting more inquiries from developers. We've had a couple of condo projects that went, I guess belly up is the technical term, during the recession, that were bought from lenders who had taken them back and have now been completed by new developers. So there is some market there, and we think that it's a good possibility that the fees will come back. I doubt it. I don't think the findings are going to show they can come back at the fee rates that were originally established, but when we do get the study, we'll look at it, we'll share it with council, and then we'll have a public hearing. In fact, this type of hearing where you're imposing fees requires extra notice, if you will. There's 2 sets of notices that go out, and we notify the BIA and all the different developers that we're aware of that could be impacted by the fee, and they'll have an opportunity to comment on it and testify at your future hearing.
I remember I was on the Planning Commission when this issue came up, and we did vote in the affirmative. But I mean, if the fees are reinstated, which it sounds like what you're saying to me they will be, based on the analysis that you've asked for, I mean, we have the total latitude to do that, do we not? I mean, there's no.
Well, I think you probably have a little more latitude with the housing inclusionary, and a little bit less latitude with the linkage fee, and the city attorney can comment.
There has been additional cases that have come out with respect to inclusionary housing ordinances and linkage fees that have restricted cities' abilities to oppose it. The commercial linkage fee, for example, there has to be an excess, and so the original BAE report went through that process to show a nexus between the need for affordable housing based on the creation of these new commercial and industrial uses. That part of the report, I think, is still good, but the other part of the report is that we cannot impose such a fee on a project that it becomes economically not viable. And that's the part, given the economics today that we live in, that needs to be redone. So there are more limits on what a city can do than there was back when we originally adopted the inclusionary.
Back in '07, I think it
Yes.
was, yeah, okay. And just one other thing for clarification. So the report will come back in February, but we're being asked tonight to keep the fees at 0 through June. Would we not be able to just keep the fees through 0 up until the report comes out, and on a month-to-month basis? Is there some reason we have to keep them to 0 till June?
Well, I think the way the resolutions have been structured in the past is they set the fees at 0 for a particular length of time, and then I think if a resolution expired, they would go back to the original rates. So we'd not like that to happen. And I think we're expecting to get the report from the consultant in February, and that's the draft report. So there'll be some back and forth, and we think it'll be ready for presentation to council in March, but then we would need to do the noticing for the public hearings. And I know that there's 2 notices, and I think that occupies about a month's worth of time right there. So just to get it on the, kind of in sync with our fiscal years and our budget cycle and all of that, I think a 6-month time period is appropriate. All projects that have been approved, and the fees collected at building permit, but it only applies to projects that were approved after the original ordinance was adopted in 2007. So that's kind of a small pool of projects that, if one of those happened to go forward and get their building permits in that interim, when you had a 0 fee, let's say before we up the fees, let's say we set the fees at 0 through the end of June, and by May or so you were ready to adopt the ordinance and reset the fees, or adopt the resolution to reset the fees higher. There could be a little window there where somebody would be paying a 0 fee when perhaps they should have paid a $1 a square foot or something like that.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Prescott.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? None? I do have a question of the city attorney, Mrs. Noonan. So what you said was that resolution modifying inclusionary housing in lieu fee until June 30th, that is over which the council has latitude, but not the second item?
No.
Which is the linkage fee?
No, I gave an example of the linkage fee. Even the inclusionary housing fee, the city doesn't have carte blanche discretion on how much they can impose. And so in order for us to be able to impose a certain amount, there has to be a study that's done. The BAE study that was done back in 2006 is no longer valid because the state of the economy is much different today than it was back then. So we've hired a new consultant, which council is authorized to do, to redo that analysis to try to determine what the actual fee can be. Because whether it's the inclusionary housing fee or the linkage fee, there still is limits on how much we can impose. We have more discretion with the inclusionary housing fee under our police powers, but there still has to be, there's limits on how much we can impose.
I see. Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that. Are there any additional questions or comments? If none, then I would be looking for a motion. Mr. Adam.
I'm absolutely in favor of these fees because we've lost our redevelopment agencies and we need to support affordable housing, and this is where it's going to come from. I completely understand why they've been waived over the last 4 years because of economic reasons, but as Mr. Prescott said, we've evolved a little bit, and I think the economy can now support the fees. I'm willing to get the report back in February to see what the analysis is and the legal ramifications that have changed since the thing was adopted back in '07. But I certainly wouldn't want to go past June of 2013. So with that, I will move the recommendation, and that is what?
For item 9B.
9B, yes. Thank you. 9B.
Okay, are there any comments to the motion? All right, I will make a comment. I have been historically not in favor of setting these fees at zero, simply because I didn't see the reason why, with an office vacancy and commercial vacancy of around 30%, why we would actually need to encourage more building. And given that now in recent history we've lost all redevelopment dollars, and we do have to find other avenues to fund affordable housing. But given the comments made by the city attorney, I will support the motion and hope and see what the analysis will bring in early next year. Mr. Adam, as maker of the motion, any final comments?
None.
Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We now move on to department reports, item 10A, which is a request to initiate an amendment to the general plan land use element. And this case will be presented to us by Senior Planner Pam Leopold. I also need to state for the record that we had one council member meet with the applicant a while back, and that report is in the supplemental packet.
Thank you, Mayor Bill de la Peña and members of the council. Good evening. This request to initiate a general plan amendment involves 6.06 acres of property located at 400 and 401 East Rolling Oaks Drive. There is also a request to allow concurrent processing of the entitlement applications concerning 4.6 acres of land at 400 East Rolling Oaks Drive. The 4.64 acres of land located at the southeast corner of Rolling Oaks Drive and Los Padres Drive is designated as very low density residential on the general plan. The 1.42 acres of land located at 401 East Rolling Oaks Drive is directly across Rolling Oaks Drive, across the street. This property is designated as commercial on the general plan. With the consent of the property owner of the 1.42 acres of land at 401 East Rolling Oaks Drive, the request includes a change from commercial to institutional. This property is also occupied by the Thousand Oaks Surgical Hospital. Although it's zoned PL, the requested general plan amendment would appropriately align the land use element designation with the zoning. If council initiates the amendment, the application and its companion zone change would be reviewed by staff and considered by the Planning Commission at a public hearing. The Commission will provide a recommendation to City Council, which will hold its own public hearing and make a decision. In addition, the applicant is requesting that City Council consider the necessary entitlement applications on the project to be processed with the 4.64 acres of land concurrently with the general plan amendment and companion zone change. Essentially, the entitlement applications cannot be accepted as complete for processing since they would not comply with the current zone classification on the property unless concurrent processing is allowed. Concurrent processing of the general plan amendment, zone change, and entitlement applications will allow the Planning Commission as well as City Council to evaluate all the issues simultaneously. If concurrent processing is authorized by City Council, the applicant may then file the entitlement applications consistent with the proposed land use amendment and zone change. Staff supports this approach and recommends granting the request for concurrent processing. This concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Leopold. Are there any questions of staff? None? I do have a question of land use expert extraordinaire, Mr. Prescott, regarding Measure E. How will this affect Measure E?
Basically, we deal with that in the staff report. There's two elements to it. First, on the commercial side, and Measure E limits the amount of commercial acreage in the city and the amount of residential density in the city to the levels that existed in 1996. Should there be an amendment request that would exceed either of those levels, then it would require not only the normal approval by City Council, but also voter ratification. On the commercial side, the property we currently have a balance of 1.76 acres of commercial land in what we internally call the credit union. And that is, by previous general plan amendments, have actually reduced the amount of commercial land in the city by 1.76 acres compared to the level that existed in 1996. And I think the main amendment there that did that was the change for the Canal Mobile Home Park, which had been designated commercial with the original general plan, and then it ultimately, through a series of amendments, became medium density residential. So anyway, there's the bank of 1.76 acres. In this amendment, with the inclusion of the change for the surgical hospital from commercial to institutional, we have a net change of 1.94 acres. I'm sorry, that's the open space section. Sorry. 1.42 acres, so that's within the 1.76 that's available. So this will, if it's all approved, it will still be below the 96 levels. And then on the residential side, because one of the parcels is changing from very low density residential to commercial, the property of 400 Rolling Oaks Drive, that will be increase the bank, if you will, by 9 acres, and there's 9 units. There's currently 187. We're 187 units below the 1996 level, and this will reduce it by another 9 units, so it will be 196 units below that level. So basically, it's compliant with Measure E in the sense that it can go through the normal process without the additional requirement of voter approval.
Mr. Prescott, if you could just clarify how much would be left in the bank, so to speak, in the commercial section.
0.48 acres.
Okay. All right.
For commercial.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions? None? Good. Then let me see if we have any. We do have one public speaker, and that is Mr. Mark Sellers, representing the applicant.
Mark Sellers with the Jackson DeMarco Law Firm, here on behalf of the applicant. The subject property, the main property, which is now a youth care facility that was built in the 1970s, that the property owner doesn't have any interest in operating anymore, and it basically entered in an agreement to sell to the applicant, is uniquely located. I think that site is right next to the surgical center. It abuts the surgical center property. It is separated from the residential single-family detached, which is further up the hill. There's a 25% rather side of a hill that between this site and the lower density residential properties. Right across the street is multifamily stacked flats. And this, to me, is the logical expansion of the surgical center and the medical offices, which are just across the street, and some of them right next door to the particular property. What we're asking concurrent processing for, because we understand that before the council will be the issue of taking some of the land from the Measure E credit union. And we feel that we need to show what the ultimate facility will be. and that's going to be a cancer treatment center. It's going to specialize with cancer treatment. It's something that I think we feel that has a great deal of community benefit for all the people locally who suffer and are burdened with that disease, that need daily or weekly chemotherapy treatment, et cetera. That's the goal, is to show that project with the general plan amendment and the zone change, and basically have a synergism of that whole center, which I think works well together. So that's the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Any questions of Mr. Sellers? None? Okay. If there are no questions of staff, I can open it up to a motion. Ms. Irwin.
I'm going to move the staff recommendation to initiate a general plan amendment and the rest of the recommendation too. I'm not going to comment too much on all the zone changes and general plan changes that have to be made, but I think this would be an excellent use for our community. We have different medical providers moving to the area, UCLA and the expansion of Los Robles, and I think a dedicated cancer center would be a huge benefit to our community.
Any comments to the motion? Just for the record, I will not vote on the motion in an abundance of caution because my husband is affiliated in some way with HCA, which leases the property and has purchased Tosh, so I prefer not to vote on this. Please vote.
Motion carries 4-0 with Mayor Bill de la Pena abstaining.
Thank you very much. And this brings us to item 10B, which will be presented by our facilities manager, Liz Perez, or Perez, as she probably prefers. And this is regarding the Los Robles Golf Course outdoor event facility. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. And yes, my husband would love it if you said Perez, even though I say it Perez. So tonight we have for you the outdoor event area for the Los Robles Golf Course. And I'm the city's facilities manager and project manager for the project. So tonight the recommendations include the bid award to eAvico for $1,578,000, a budget appropriation of $571,000, and an expenditure of the total project cost of $1.871. Also the approval plan, design, and specifications. So a little project history. There were major renovations, I think everyone knows, that were completed around 2002. And at that time, there was about 2-acre vacant parcel that was left over, and it was a council goal to have that developed at some point. Eagle Management took over in a long-term management agreement in 2006. They were, at the time, Evergreen Alliance. And part of that agreement included a $150,000 capital contribution towards that vacant site development. So the working with Eagles Management, the outdoor event area concepts were started in 2006, and throughout the last several years, the Capital Facilities Committee of the Council has been involved and brought us up to date. And Planning Commission, I think Al Adam might remember, was taken a look at the project in 2010 and approved it. So this is the vacant site, not much to look at, but it's right adjacent to the practice putting green area, back side of the pro shop. Those cars won't be there once the event center is built. And this is the overall aerial that shows the master planning. This parking lot right now is not used very often, and this is an overflow parking, and part of the master plan you'll see it has as a second phase later on a new maintenance building facility, and then of course this is the vacant parcel right there next to the clubhouse and banquet facility. And then here's the maintenance master plan, which shows again that new maintenance building right next to the freeway that would be relocated. The current position is next to residential, so it'll be away from residential, closer to utilities, and be more convenient for delivery. So that will be coming back after this first phase is done. So over here you have, again, for orientation, the pro shop. The putting green will be reworked by Eagle separately from this project, And then this whole green area is where the event area is going to be located. So project features. So it started out as just an outdoor area for about 250 people, average wedding, large events, with some sort of stage or backdrop for events to take place, with a formal processional walkway. The support building was not actually originally planned at the beginning, but once we started getting into all those codes and rules, it was determined that we needed extra restrooms. Well, if you're going to have a restroom, you might as well have a bride's room. Then we got to the point where we were talking about, well, we want a barbecue out there because this, that, and the other, and then environmental health got involved and says, well, now you need a sink. Well, if you're going to have a sink, you might as well have a cold kitchen. So our little outdoor event area ended up having a support building. So now it's a full-service building with a food service area, a small catering kitchen, storage, and it's now a very complete project. It also includes a hardscape patio and open area for large tents to be put up so that even if you want the outdoor event and you don't want to end up in the banquet facility, you can put up a tent out there. So it's going to be really a great area. So again, the close-up kind of gives you a little bit more orientation. Down here on the bottom is the pro shop. You'll be able to walk into the area, very lushly landscaped. This is the building that has the bride's room, the catering kitchen, formal feature fountain, and then this will be a walking path up, and this is the stage kind of backdrop area. This green area that's open, there's no trees, so that's where a tent can be put up, and then this is for your cocktail hour, dancing, or whatever's going to happen there. So we talk about the wedding event area, but it's for corporate events, golf tournaments, the bar mitzvahs that they do out there, fundraisers, parties, anything that somebody wants to have, you can rent it and have it. This was one of the renderings done for a planning commission showing the bottom picture is when you approach from the gas station kind of driveway in. The idea is that we're going to be putting in fairly fully grown trees so that it should, from day one, look kind of lush, and you'll feel like you're sort of in another place. These are elevations in the little plan of the support building. And it will be the colors and all integrate with the existing structures. And now the fun part of costs, there's always a cost to everything, and the 1.971 includes the total cost, including construction. Subtracting out the Eagles contribution leaves a $1.821 million cost to the golf course fund. The original budget at 1.2 really didn't have that building anticipated, and so that makes up most of the difference of the cost that we're requesting tonight. But the good news on this slide is this is probably one of the projects that I get to do that actually generates revenue. And so for the first year, and this is a fairly conservative estimate based on 26 to 30 events at the center, could be generating at least $150,000 net the first year, so with a simple payback of 12 to 15 years. And they're hoping it catches on. The Eagle did some really good market studies, and that there was the need for this in it regionally, countywide, within a 30, 40-mile radius. So they're really excited about getting this project going. And this is 100% funded by the golf course. There's no general fund money involved. And the golf course was voted best banquet hall and golf course a couple years ago with the Ventura County Star. So. The course benefits, 30% of gross revenue is non-golf related, and the non-golf revenue does allow us to keep pricing competitive. So it's definitely good to keep the food and beverage revenues going on the up. Nationally, if you're not aware, golf rounds have been flat or negative at most courses. Many courses have been closing over the last 5 years. So it's really great that Los Robles can stay in positive the last several years. It also allows the course to keep minimal fee increases. I think there was 2 years ago no fee increases, and they try to keep them as low as they can. And the additional revenue, of course, then goes back into the entire golf course fund and allows us to have other good amenities for everyone. So awarding the project tonight, the contractor's been in discussions, and they're ready to start probably by February. with a substantial completion by November, and maybe we can all be there for a nice grand opening holiday party next December if all goes well. And that ends my presentation, and I'm here as well as John Adams to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Perez. Sounds like you're ready to become a wedding coordinator, in addition to everything else you do. All right. Are there any questions? Mr. Adam?
That very nice presentation. Thank you. This is just an educational question for the new council member, and maybe Mr. Adams might want to answer this. Are we obligated to take the lowest bid on projects like this, or is there discretion, or do we evaluate the bidder, or how's that
I
work?
probably can answer that better.
Yeah, sure.
We have to follow public contract code, and so by public contract code, it's the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. So there's a little leadway. We do have to check licensing and bonding, but it's not as discretionary as when we go out and, say, get consultants, engineers, and architects. So we are pretty much bound to low bidder. He was the lowest and a little lower than the second place. So when we're a little hesitant, we actually met with them, the architects, the engineers. We go through the plans, make sure there's no mistakes, and then we just hope for the best. And they were really great guys when they came in, so we're hoping it's a good project. They have great references, worked for the aviation. They installed lights on the Honolulu airport tower while the airport was being operated. So hopefully it's all going to work out real well.
Good, thank you.
And any questions on that side? None? Okay. All right. I just wanted to confirm the numbers that were presented for how long it would take to basically get all that money back. Those numbers, Mr. Adams, I'm assuming you put together, right?
Well, yes, in consultation with the golf course. This project going back, almost 6 years, part of even the proposal to have a wedding facility was to see what the need would be. And so going into this the whole time, there was projections on how many events would be reasonable to expect, especially over the first few years. When you think of 26 events, you're really talking about 2 a month. I mean, that's what, we're 2 to 3 a month every week or every other 2 weeks. So we did spend a lot of time with them on that pro forma. Like I said, we really took the low end of it. As Ms. Perez suggested, food and beverage has the highest NOI or net operating income as far as return to the golf course. If you want to go back and look 10 years ago, the decision to do the banquet facility really helped support the golf course. And by doing the expansion on the event area and providing that non-golf revenue, we'll just continue to make that a better asset. So we feel comfortable with the numbers. I mean, if you really think about 2 to 3 events a month, it's reasonable based on the activities that they're currently doing. Just give you an idea for December, revenue numbers for the month is about $180,000. So certainly that's just at the banquet facility as far as gross revenue. So there's certainly that potential to earn that net operating income. And again, doing those improvements are something that will be there for much longer than 15, 20 years. We're talking a bulk of the improvements are landscaping and the aesthetics aspect. There is the building, but a lot of it is the improvements.
Well, thank you. What appeases me is that the money is entirely from the golf fund and not from the general fund.
That is correct. I mean, just tonight we handed out financial statements for fiscal year ending 2012. Golf course had a net profit for last year of $160,000. So certainly, the golf course, even in this economic times, has been one of our performing enterprise funds and been 100% self-supportive.
Very good. Mr. Fox.
Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to go through that yet, but I think it's worthy to point out that that's a fairly substantial change from the years past. We were actually operating in the negative with the golf course. Maybe just very quickly elaborate on where we were and where we are now.
Going back prior to Eagle and sort of that management arrangement, and we call it a management contract, but there's some incentives, some performance incentives. They get a certain percentage of NOI. The structure on that has completely changed. They have a lot more flexibility in pricing, promotions. They really can push the envelope and manage the facility on a daily basis, and that's what they do. And that's what they have been doing literally for the last 6 years. And again, the golf course over this economic time where other golf courses have been closing, have been supported by tax money. That has not been the case here in Thousand Oaks, that golf course has run 100% independent for itself. And so, as you mentioned, that has not always been the case. And now that golf course is set up specifically with the banquet facility to continue supporting those operations.
I'm just curious, the banquet facility, is it 10 years old?
Yes, 2002.
Wow. And have we done any capital improvements to the banquet facility? Like carpet and, just the basic stuff?
We just replaced carpet within the last 2 years. That is part of the capital budget for the golf course. I mean, it's a highly utilized...
Where I'm going is this going to get incorporated into the same, so the payback time, that's incorporating, you talked about 12, 15 years, you're going to have to do some capital improvements to the new building that we haven't built yet. I'm assuming you've built that into the payback?
Yes, I mean, I think we look at the simple number of 150,000. There's a lot more potential there. When we look at those type of improvements, we're looking at the payback. But one of the projects we're going to bring to you in the next 2 years, specifically when we get this, is the maintenance facility, and that's going to be a needed facility and improvement at the golf course. It's not going to have a return on investment, and so. By expanding the event area first, expanding net operating income and revenues, we'll be able to support not just the improvements and the maintenance of those facilities, but also the building of that maintenance facility.
Yeah, just a comment. Had council, back when we were dealing with the golf course, some of you weren't here, we were headed in the same direction with the golf course as we found ourselves recently with the theaters. Is that if you stand by and do nothing, you're going to have a problem. And council had to make some fairly difficult decisions. We didn't have the financial issues that we're facing now, but I think staff did a great job of getting us ahead of where we needed to be. And like I said, I'm pleased to hear that we were actually making some money at the golf course. It's certainly self-sustaining. I don't remember the numbers, but there was a time when we were subsidizing the golf course. It was actually losing money. So.
And we have neighboring cities that unfortunately don't have food and beverage and have that component in their revenue stream that is financially supporting it from their general fund. So it's not uncommon to see a public entity have to support it when they don't have the amenities that we have at Los Robles based on those prior council decisions.
It'll be a great community benefit. There's no doubt about it. You need a motion, Madam Mayor?
Well, let me see if there are any additional questions, comments. None? Well, thank goodness for that 19th hole at the golf course. That funds everything. Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Fox, go ahead.
All right. I would move the recommendations of staff, items 1, 2, 3, and 4, as it relates to the Los Robles Outdoor Event Facility, and award bid to Avico Incorporated.
Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, and we will now continue with our agenda to skipping item 11 because there are no reports from the redevelopment agency. Item number 12, council issues recommendations. We have follow-up reports on meetings attended by Mr. Price and Mrs. Irwin. Who will be doing this one?
I don't know if Mr. Price wants to say something also, but I'll mention a few things. It was a great conference in Boston. This is basically a conference that shows the best practices of what Boston is doing, and they are a very progressive city. A lot of ideas that we are going to be discussing with staff and have discussed with staff, and hopefully implement some of those ideas here. They're doing a lot of work with entrepreneurs and young people and supporting internship programs, a lot of recycling ideas. So it was a very, very energizing conference. Did you want to add anything?
Thank you. I would add that that being the first NLC event that I had attended, I was overwhelmed with the variety of topics that they covered there, and it was thoroughly educational. One of the things that I found really fascinating were the different I've forgotten the term that they used there, but the different improvement districts, for lack of a better word, that they had throughout the city. And we happened to be there during the holiday time, and it was interesting to see how they seem to have competitions amongst the different districts, and it really brought not only a holiday flair to it, but it beautified it tremendously. So I just thought that was fantastic. So I think other than that, I think you covered it well.
Very good. Thank you so much. The detailed report is available in the supplemental packet, which is also available online. And do we need to make a motion to approve this? Who would like to do that? Mrs. Irwin?
Move to approve the report.
Please vote.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next up, our city manager, Mr. Mitnick. What's the latest?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, no follow-up from items from tonight. And this is our last meeting of the year 2012, and our next council meeting will be on January 8th, 2013. And we're still putting the agenda together for that. For the public's benefit and to remind the City Council, with the holidays coming up, City Hall and most city facilities, including the two libraries, will be closed on Monday, December 24th and Tuesday, December 25th. In recognition of the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and also the city offices will be on furlough for the week that follows, all the way through Monday, December 31st. The city offices will be open on the 31st, and then of course we'll be closed on January 1st for the New Year's Day holiday. That's it by way of city manager follow-up and comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have some closed session items that the City Attorney Tracy Noonan will announce.
Yes, we have 3 closed session items. First is the conference with legal counsel for existing litigation, She Engineering and Construction versus City of Thousand Oaks, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9A. Second is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9C. And then conference with real property negotiators regarding property APN number 667-0080105, located on Caneo Center Drive, with city negotiators John Adams, Jay Spurgeon, Nader Hadari, and Christopher Norman, with negotiating parties Stu Miller. Under negotiation is the price and terms of a lease pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. I don't anticipate having any announcements afterwards.
Thank you very much. And before we adjourn the meeting to January 8th, I would like to make a few comments, because this evening we will adjourn in memory of Bryce Garrick Sr. Mr. Garrick Sr. was the father of Brian Garrick, our city's street maintenance crew leader. Bryce was born in Outlook, Montana, with a population of only 80. He married his wife Linda in 1954, and together they raised 5 children. Bryce, originally an engineer, moved to Thousand Oaks in 1962, where he opened a successful landscape maintenance business. And following his retirement, Bryce returned to Outlook, Montana in 1995, where he lived out the rest of his life. He was an excellent chef, an avid reader, and an animal enthusiast. On behalf of the Thousand Oaks City Council, I would like to express our sincerest regrets to the Garrick family. And our second adjournment is in memory of Luz Martinez Flores. She was the wife of Javier Martinez, a City of Thousand Oaks landscape maintenance worker. Luz was only 44 years old. She was born in Mexico, and she was a resident of Ventura County for 36 years. Luz was a graduate of Oxnard High School and worked as a medical assistant for 23 years. Luz and Javier were devoted parents to their wonderful children, Jennifer and Javier. Luz's favorite pastime was dancing. And on behalf of the Thousand Oaks City Council, we send our deepest regrets to the Martinez family. Luz will be dearly missed by her family and many friends. And before I raise the gavel here, also would like to express our sincerest congratulations to Mary Leck, who is retiring, and this was her last council meeting, and I think she's already left, hasn't she? Yes. So congratulations to Mary, who was just absolutely invaluable at the city manager's office and to the city council. And we are now adjourned until January 8th.